What I am about to tell you is the true story of Oak Island. The story's series of events have been established from over 3 years of meticulous research, examination of evidence, land features, geological surveys, witness testimonies, historical records, historian research, cryptography, Masonic symbolism, ritual and membership, excavated artifacts, and over 12 test digs, even going so far as to acquire information hidden from the public. There is a story that surrounds the treasure of Oak Island that is steeped in historical event and importance. However, it is hidden from the public. Some powerful people from the past felt this was for good reason. Every lead, every reliable trail of data, testimony, historical fact and Oak Island artifact regarding the treasure and the search thereof have led me to the same conclusion. Every solid link of information regarding the numerous theories surrounding the island point to and support this tale. First, my method of investigation. I set out on this quest to find out two things above all others. Is there actually a treasure, and if so, who hid it there? I was not interested in listening to fantastic tales unless they were based on fact. A strong argument was the most important thing I was looking for when investigating theories surrounding the island. There are many legends ranging from Vikings to pirates, even aliens. As I dug deeper into the information surrounding the quest, the ideas, evidence and truth became flooded with conjecture, a metaphorical flooding of the truth, a flooding reminiscent of the island itself. Everyone seemed willing to put forward a claim, but most seemed to lack a solid theory as to why, when and how. So I began to collect all the solid data regarding test digs, landmarks, features and artifacts etc., to try to see what was actually there on the island. When trying to establish who could get to an island in Nova Scotia pre-1700, I had to ignore historical paradigm in favor of hard facts from the island. One of the most interesting discoveries are the Templar coins found on the island during a metal detecting expedition. These coins were from England and dated from the 1600s. How intriguing indeed. When I began to delve into the logistical understanding of what evidence there is to be found on the island regarding man-made manipulation of the landscape and the work that would have had to have been put into making them. For example, the man-made beach of Smith's Cove, the log-layered money pit of every 10 feet, with the stone tablet at 90. Oh, and let's not forget the fact that there are indeed tunnels leading from the island off into the coastline, laid down with coconut fibers over the tops of them to prevent them becoming blocked. This work would have required a coffered dam constructed around the south coast of the island, a coffered dam whose remains have already been found coded in Roman. This dig and the design of the entire trap took tremendous effort and planning to create. There was a group, however, that were able to take on such a tremendous task, or rather teach others how to do similar around 1700 and some time before, a very able group of stonemasons, who would later create a Masonic order. My initial discovery, one in which I have already discussed in my more recent videos, is the Masonic connection surrounding the treasure hunt. Although concealed from the surface, more than 90% of the treasure hunters involved in the search post-1795 have been Freemasons. Access to the search through the years has been deliberately restricted to anyone who was not a high-degree Mason, and all companies surrounding the dig, from the Onslow Company in the 1800s all the way up to present day with Triton and their famous Behold 10X, are owned, funded and ran by the Masonic Order. Some of these Masons, for numerous reasons, had leaked knowledge that was discovered and then concealed from the public regarding the hunt. For example, an explanation of a professional attempt at cracking the codes of the island, and the information found in a dead 33rd degree Mason's papers linking tortured Templars to the island. Many pieces of information have come to light in which I have already covered. The treasure has always been seen as something of vast importance to this secretive society. This is the real story of Oak Island. Robert the Bruce, the Normans, and the Sinclairs of Roslin, all from within the English, Scottish and Irish realms, including some of their French relatives, were the first members and founders of the Knights Templar. Around 1070 Scotland would gain one of the largest navies in Europe, and their ancestral homes within the glens of Scotland became the Templar headquarters in hiding. Whether these places still are is unknown. In 1398, a century before Columbus, Henry Sinclair of Roslin would lead an expedition to lands in eastern Canada and New England. These had also supposedly been visited by the Norse for centuries before. His navigator was Antonio Zeno, who kept detailed maps and records of the voyage, landing in Nova Scotia on the 2nd day of June 1398, on none other than Oak Island. Soon after Columbus's supposed official trip in 1441, the Sinclairs of Scotland ordered a fleet of stonemasons from across Europe. This was to carry out a mammoth and secret task of digging a huge vault into a rockside to hide a large treasure and to supposedly conceal an army, depending on the source, complete with booby traps, to snare any eager looters. Sound familiar? This group of Masons were bestowed with a responsibility of trust. The Masonic Order was created off of the back of the vast fortunes of extremely important jewels and artifacts that the Knights of the Crusades gained from their rampages across the unknown worlds of the time. during their first decade of life, and because of the Sinclairs' vast Templar fortune, this group of stonemasons were able to form their own secret sect, known as the Freemasons. When James II became king, he decreed the Sinclair family to be the hereditary guardians of the Freemasons. But betrayal was in the air. Soon after the successful construction of this secret lair in the Highlands, religious conflict would sweep across Scotland. Some suspect from a leaking of knowledge of the vast fortunes these Catholic Templars possessed. Protestant mobs inspired by Calvinism began targeting Catholic churches in Scotland, attempting to ransack them of their gold and other treasures. When the Sinclairs and other Templar clans became aware of the approaching invasions, their religious treasures were gathered up and rescued from Protestant hands. The Crown of England at this point was under Protestant control. England was made to rise up against the families that controlled Scotland, mainly the Sinclairs. The battles would rage on for near a century. In 1542 the Battle of Solway saw the defeat of Oliver Sinclair and with him the Scottish families that controlled Scotland. At the same time, 33rd degree Mason documentation would have Templars trapped at Glastonbury, surrounded by the King of England and the Prime Minister of England's men. These knights either had in their possession the Holy Grail, or knew of its location. This source of evidence is covered in the previous videos. They were eventually tortured in London and executed. As Scotland was being swarmed by the English and a king's private army attempted to seize the last remaining Templar treasures and Knights of England in Glastonbury, the Templars and the Sinclair family were already prepared for the treachery of the Freemasons. Henry Sinclair's mission while in Nova Scotia nearly a full century before was to find and build a suitable vault for the treasure. This would be in the event that anything catastrophic should happen at home. This lair was built and booby-trapped by Knights Templar to house their most precious artifacts. It appears the Masons they had enlisted to help build their safe house in Scotland had betrayed them and sold out to the Crown of England. The coins found on the island and the Roman numerals used on the old cofferdam support their presence there at this time also. The decoded stone map created with pre-1700s techniques or any other modern evidence that has been discovered, not to mention the overwhelming Masonic involvement since this day that I have not only proven but laid out most of their lesser kept secrets. This all would be enough to support their presence archaeologically. Only traveled Knights Templar would have used Roman numerals in writing, coded religiously significant stone features, Christianic crosses that litter the island, tropical coconut fibers, English Templar coins, etc. There is support of the Templar treasure on the island, in the form of a testimony from the most powerful family of France at that time, when the Sinclairs and Templars were all but extinguished. This family have kept these secrets for centuries, and have only admitted to knowing these secrets of the island very rarely, given to them by the last Sinclairs. The details of the information this family was bestowed with is still largely unknown. This small book review I found while investigating historical data for corroboration, aptly titled Lost Treasure of the Knights Templar, written by a Stephen Surrey, was pretty astounding. And I quote, "When the Order of Knights Templar was ruthlessly dissolved by King Philip the Fair of France in 1307, the order possessed immense wealth and political power. Yet none of the treasure amassed by the Templars has ever been found. This lost treasure is rumored to have contained artifacts of spiritual significance that were retrieved by the order during the Crusades, including the genealogies of David and Jesus, as well as documents that trace these bloodlines into the royal bloodlines of Merovingian France, documents that were perceived by those in power in medieval Europe as a threat to the established order of church and state. But what connects this treasure to the Oak Island money pit, so called because of both the priceless treasure it may hide and the extraordinary sums of money spent in futile attempts to excavate it that has baffled treasure hunters for over 200 years? Using newfound historical evidence that places a Scottish presence in the New World 1 entire century before Columbus, Stephen Surrey presents a fascinating and convincing scenario that is the Sinclair clan of Scotland transporting the wealth of the Templars, entrusted to them as the Masonic heirs of the order, to a remote island off the shores of present-day Nova Scotia. The mysterious money pit that is commonly believed to have been built before 1497 and has guarded its secret tenaciously despite 2 centuries of determined efforts to unearth it. All of these efforts, one even financed by American President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, have failed, thanks to an elaborate system of booby traps, false beaches, hidden drains, and other hazards of remarkable engineering ingenuity and technological complexity created by its builders. I have yet to read Surrey's apparently accurate book, although after reading the review, I suspect, through painstaking historical and forensic research we have come to similar conclusions. However, we differ in the fact that I believe the Freemasons sold out in favor of Morpa. The Masons somehow found the island some 200 years later. The Knights Templar were hunted and tortured to extinction, but clearly none of them gave up the secrets of the island. This shows the magnitude of the importance of what's hidden there. The stone tablet that the masons dug up when they first found the island was a decoy, even though they didn't even decode it and set off the booby trap regardless. The stone tablet can be shown to be a decoy to even the most simple-minded. The stone tablet had a message inscribed on it instructing the finder of it to continue digging. However, when you follow the tablet's instructions you come into quite a bit of difficulty, that being the flooding tunnels that were dug in just below the tablet's location. Flooding the tunnel leading to the treasure forever. Even if the entrance is actually the money pit. If there are multiple decoy tunnels in the pit also, and we can't even explore the bottom of the pit, what hope is there? I will now be focusing my efforts on researching the methods of the Templars, how they hid their treasures in the past, what they had accomplished in acquiring during their reign, countries visited, etc. As Season 4 of The Curse looms, all I will hope for is that they finally state the obvious about the tablet, look deeper into the evidential artifacts that have been found on the island, and most importantly the things that link a group of people to the island before 1700, like the coins, the stone map, the cofferdam's remains, the Masonic connection, etc., etc., like I have been doing for over 3 years. And that they share it all with the world, regardless of historical paradigm, regardless of backlash. The Roman sword, it would appear, has been a successful litmus paper test, regardless of its authenticity. It has shown the rigid nature of the general public's opinions, when confronted with a view of history that doesn't match that which they were taught in school. It would seem to the majority of us, history is indeed a mystery. Stay tuned, and thanks for watching.